So I'm going to start. Welcome to this team information session on the pre-contracting stage. I hope you can all see my screen. The idea of today is to give you some information, also to a certain extent to get to know each other, and give you some practical information on how to prepare the start of your project. Of course, first of all, the good news is that all of you, I think, that are here are linked to a selected Team 2024 project. This is excellent news, of course. You must know that it was a very competitive round of selections, a two-round selection, of course. So you came through the two rounds and a lot of quality proposals. So the fact that you're all here means that you had a very good proposal. Now, of course, it's preparing for the startup. I'm pretty sure that you already, all of you know VLIRES, but just for the sake, we are, of course, designed to connect. In fact, we are, as VLIRES, part of the Flemish Inter-University Council, and we are the primary funding body for scholarships and partnerships in the context of academic cooperation for global sustainable development on the Flemish-speaking level of Belgium. We have an annual budget of more or less 32.5 million euros. Mostly, the core funding is from the Belgian Development Corporation, but there is, in fact, also an in-kind support via the Flemish higher education institutions. Now, we stand for partnerships and projects with real-world impact. There is some echo, so please, if you are coming into the room, mute yourself. So we stand for these partnerships and projects with real-world impact, involving local and global communities. And actually, the central point there is that we work towards the empowering of agents, being scholars, and drivers, being higher education institutions, for change. These agents and drivers of change that actually work to contribute towards sustainable development. Now, a key feature of all of our projects is that it's not just about academic cooperation, it's not just about academic impact. The fact that your projects got selected is because there was a clear pathway of change towards societal impact. So through uptake of knowledge and applications in policies and practices in society. And this was then, of course, very also assessed by the selection commissions. We are more than just a grant manager. Of course, you know us from these projects calls and now this kind of meeting, which is, let's say, the follow-up and the preparing for the startup is part of our grant manager role. But we also are a network and a platform bringing people together from higher education institutions in Flanders and worldwide, but also connecting with other actors. Also, VLIRES has the ambition to strengthen itself as a knowledge hub, learning from projects and also creating knowledge on academic cooperation for development. And in fact, in our current 5-year program, the big slogan is Connect, Learn and Inspire. We want to strengthen this element of connections with each other, of learning from each other, and also of being inspired by each other, by your projects. And that therefore it's very important that once your project starts, that you also try to share your stories of success and also the difficulties of the projects that are ongoing. Now, what we can do for you is indeed organize these kinds of sessions, help you in connecting with others. But of course, we're also available directly for questions via email, via Teams meetings, and so forth. But not to forget, your first and primary contact as a project promoter goes via the ICOS or the GEO, which is of the Flemish higher education institutions. The ICOS is, let's say, the reference persons at the Flemish universities. The GEOs have a similar reference person at the level of the universities of applied sciences and arts. And they provide you support in the development or in the startup and the ongoing process of your projects all the way. But then you can of course contact us if you have more deeper questions or special things that you would like to address with VLIRES. Who are we? Here are a number of faces. Myself, I'm Peter Delannoy, Global Partnership Coordinator at VLIRES, and responsible for a number of countries in Latin America and also Ethiopia, Vietnam. My colleague Kathleen Buitak, responsible for Congo, Burundi, Benin, Morocco, and Uganda. Geraldine Mabbe, responsible for Tanzania and Kenya and ITP. And Laura Uaze, responsible for Indonesia, Philippines, Rwanda, and South Africa. Normally, these are the persons from who you will have received an email on the selection result from one of these persons, depending on in which country your project is. But of course, there are also other staff at FLIR-US involved in monitoring and following up on your projects. We have the people from finance, the finance coordinator and finance advisors. And today, Steven Brakke and Peter Verbeek will say some things further on in the presentation. And then we have also at FLIR-US a digital factory dealing also more with the digital side and with the business analysis side. And today, Richard Anderson will be the person that will guide you through the pre-contracting information. So I will actually give him the floor now, and he will also share the presentation from his side because he has to also show some other platforms. So please, Richard.
Yes, hello, I'm going to share. So, okay, so I'm Richard from the Digital Factory team. I work mostly with Tim Zilt on the tool. I was also responsible for the pre-contracting and the contracting stage. And yeah, I just want to discuss what else needs to be done before we can start the contracting process. And hopefully this all finishes before the project starts. First, we have the pre-contracting stage. As you can see on the mountain, we're almost there. Pre-contracting and contracting. What includes pre-contracting? It's the finalizing budget. So if I'm correct, you already received an email saying or asking you to revise your budget if needed, and also a link to our tool, which I will show later, where we need some basic information to fill up our contract. So we need some contact details from mostly the partner institution to fill in our contract. And then we have our contracting stage. We use our digital platform is DocuSign. I hope that most of you know it, but I will explain a little bit about that later. And then, of course, the project starts on 1 September. Okay, so this. Oh, please put yourself on mute if possible. Okay, so what will you receive? It's actually now what did you receive? For the selected projects, there was an email with an PDF of the report of the selection commission, and also a budget file with detailed comments, and an annex which says more about the budget. We have we asked in the mail a deadline that you can respond to us or will respond for the 5th of July. We do this because we know it's going to be a summer holiday, and we do want to have all the contracts signed before the project starts. This means that we need to make as much effort to finalize the budgets and the contracting info as soon as possible. Yeah, and then there was something added that is so you received our email. Once you respond, please CC info@FLIR-US to this email, because some of our colleagues are on holiday and we want to follow up on what is needed to do before the project starts. Then I'll give the word to my finance colleague, Peter Verbeek.
Okay, so one of the annexes of the contract will, of course, be the budget, the finalized budget. We have received an initial budget. Most of those budgets were very well formulated. Sometimes we have a few comments. Now, normally, it's important to know which institution is going to make the expenditures. So it's important to know which institutions are going to sign the contract, and also how the coordination costs are going to be divided. Normally it's 5% for the Belgian partner and 5% for the local partners, depending on who is going to spend the budget and do the necessary administration work. Yes, maybe next slide.
Is it going? Once.
Okay. So, we have different budget lines, investment costs, operational costs, personnel costs, and scholarship costs. Let's first start with the investment costs. Investment costs are budgeted for durable goods, and we have put an amount of 1,000 euros on items to be bought, to be put under investment costs. Of course, if purchases are done for the local partner and the limits are lower than 1,000 euros to consider it as an investment cost, we will use those local rules. What we sometimes see is that a budget is formulated for very small items, numerous small items. It's important that you consider things as an investment cost if it's also going to be on your inventory list, if it's really booked as an investment cost. So sometimes if it's smaller purchases, you could easily put them under operational cost also. When buying goods, if you buy goods from Belgium on, there is a possibility to get tax exoneration. That means that you have to try to do the necessary to obtain that tax exoneration, because we want to use our funds as efficient as possible, and it's always nicer to use those funds for the project and not to give them to the government. And then secondly, also when you import goods, sometimes your country allows to get exoneration of import duties. If that's the case, it's always good to do the necessary administration to try to obtain that. Then operational cost. What we think is very important to look at is the payment of lump sums. We are also controlled, checked by our Belgian government, and they don't like the payment of lump sums. They like that every expenditure is really justified by proper justifications. So if your local policy has the payment of lump sums in their policy, it's important that we know this before the start of the project, so that we can document this, so that later on we don't have any cancellations of those costs, refusals of those costs. Also, local per diem. The daily subsistence allowance. There are various interpretations of the daily subsistence allowance. For us, it's important to maximize this to 30 euros per day, and that should cover meals, drinks, and incidental expenditures, and the transport costs at the place where the activity is located. should there be other rules applying in your own country, we need to know this beforehand, and it needs to be approved beforehand with the proper official documentation. Normally, if we read the royal decree, sitting allowances normally are not permitted to be paid out. Now we know that sometimes we do pay some sums to stakeholders. It's important to limit this in amount and to provide this. We have foreseen in the financial framework a possibility to pay for services with an allowance. But then the amount should be maximized per person per year. And then sometimes we see in budgets very vague budgets. I mean, if you formulate a budget and you formulate an activity and you put 20,000 euros on it, for us it's not clear what we are financing, how this budget came about, how it is formulated. So then we will ask for a little bit more detail, just also to look into the fact if no lump sums are paid, if the budgets are reasonable for the cost items. So that's what a budget control should be. Okay, the next slide. Okay, for the personnel costs, it's important because when you start paying personnel costs, local legislation should always be applied. So all the taxes that you need to pay for personnel costs need to be respected. Therefore, for us, it's important that if you pay personnel cost and you budget it under the personnel cost, it should be with institutions that are also signing the contract. If you are paying experts and your institution is not signing the contract, those will automatically have to be moved to B1 operational costs and to be called service contracts. So when we review the personnel costs budget, we will always look, is everything filled in? Do we know the persons that are mentioned there, are they linked to certain institutions? And then we will also ask, are these institutions actually signing the contract? So that's what's written here. Then for scholarship costs, we have a scholarship framework that you can also find on our website. The scholarship framework formulates the maximum amounts that you can pay to scholars in Belgium. We have the short term, the studies and the research, three types of scholars. And the amounts mentioned there are amounts that we agreed upon with all the Belgian actors, so we cannot be creative in that. If we look at mistakes that are often made in a scholarship, we see, for instance, the indirect travel costs for the research and study scholarships. Those are all included in the allowance that people receive. There are some exceptions possible, but then you always have to motivate why you pay an amount more. And those exceptions are listed here in the slide. For instance, if for acquiring visa or legalizing papers, you need to pay additional fees. If the diplomatic posts to obtain those documents or those visas are not situated in your own country, but you need to travel long distance to obtain that, that's going to generate extra costs. And there, of course, we will be lenient to accepting those additional costs. Also overnight stays when you need to go at a location far away to obtain those documents is also possible. Now, there is a link in the financial framework where you can click, and it also mentions these exceptions and also the maximum amounts you're allowed to extra justify or budget. Okay, The next one. The coordination costs. So you receive coordination costs on your budget. Normally, this coordination cost is to do the general administration of the project. So, for instance, the use of premises or infrastructure, services connected to the administrative or financial coordination of project execution. If you need members from the university, like human resources, like the finance department, legal department, or stuff like that, that come to aid the project, those people can be paid with the coordination costs. It's not very logical to formulate a budget to uh, uh, to foresee payments of things that are normally to be paid with the coordination costs. So it is, however, possible, but then we need to have a good, very good explanation for it. Okay, so project, maybe I will give my colleague now the floor.
Yeah, okay, thank you, Peter. My name is Steven. So some general guidelines on the project. The activity year starts on the 1st of September until the 31st of August of the next year. So the project cannot be extended, but we can have budget transfers rollover between activity years. You can spread the budget over the years, as you have done in your proposal. And for us, it's important that it's a realistic spreading, because we are bound to have to make a clear cutoff at the after 3 years because of our system of financing. It's only for us, it's not for you, but it would be very kind and good for the overall finances of the project that you spread your budget realistically. There is one element that is important on the spending. That is, we have a spending rate of 50% of the initial plan budget of the first 2 years. That is mandatory. If your spending is below that threshold, you will lose some money. And also, after 3 years, 45 of the total budget for after 3 years. Yeah. Yeah. Next slide, please. Yeah. Oh. And then be also aware that we are audited by a statutory auditor, and that every year 20% of our expenditure, so your expenditure, will be audited, reviewed by our company auditor. And there are 3 major elements. We need a justification, an invoice, a document, preferably in a digital form, and then a link to the payment, preferably via a bank account, and also a link to accounting system. It can be accounting system of the university, can be a separate system, but those are the 3 elements that are really important to have in place to be able to prove your spending. So this was the finance part of the presentation. Maybe,
yeah. I will go on with the contract, but maybe before that, we can do a question round, because it's a lot of information. And if you have a question, you can type it in our chat, or you can put up your hand and then you can ask your question. So maybe let's give a minute for that. I already see one question of Françoise. Yes, that was?
For the import tax, the import duties, you say you might, is it obligatory to get exoneration of import duties, or if it is not possible to have them, Is it can it be accounted for on the project budget?
Well, you have to prove that your means are used efficiently. So if the policy of the country allows the exoneration of import duties and you don't do the necessary, then in fact you're not spending the money efficiently. So if you try to obtain it and you don't obtain it and you have costs, of course we will accept those costs.
Okay, thank you.
I see another question from Helga Gruber.
Yes, hello, good morning. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes, hi. Well, in our project, we have two partner organizations. One is a university in Ecuador, and the other one is a university in Bolivia. So should we sign both universities as partner? Okay, yeah, I can see you're saying yes. Because to manage also the money, like the university in Ecuador is going to have their own financial situation, and in Bolivia, we're going to have our own.
Yeah.
Okay, yes.
Yes,
So
you
then
have to. Yeah.
Go on.
Indeed,
you have
that's indeed. I just want to add something there. Of course, you have to first look at your project proposal, and then it has to be listed there, this role of the two institutions, and then I let my colleague Peter add on it on the technical side of it.
Yes, you have to have that link with justifications, accountancy, and payment. So as soon as you start spending money in a certain country, it needs to be in the accountancy of that institution. I don't see how you can provide all these information if you don't have a project linked to it, and normally you have to have a project linked to it by signing the contract.
Okay, perfect. Thank you very much.
Okay, then we have Sarah Verkruijsen.
Yes, thanks a lot. I have a question about the project of U Hasselt. The Seabreeze project, does it have to start on the 1st of September, or could we start a few months later?
I will take that question if it's okay, colleagues. Technically, your project starts on the 1st of September. So it will, if you start your activities later, you will lose technically time because the end date will always also be on the 31st of August, 5 years later. But there is no problem in the first year to say, okay, we will really start with real activities 2 months later, but that will not change anything on the contractual side. It will start 1st of September.
Okay, thank you, that's clear.
Okay, then we have William Katie. You are on mute.
Yes, thank you very much. My name is William Okedi from Malupe University in Kenya. My question relates to our partners. As a university, we have partners who may be civil society organizations, they could be NGOs or CBOs or other partners that we work with. How shall we handle the financial relationships with them?
They say put it on the, yeah, we replace it on the drive, but I'm thinking.
We're hearing some background noise. Colleagues, who is going to take this financial question?
I can reply to that. So normally you don't transfer money to those NGOs, but you can make their expenditures from your university because you are signing the contract. So what they could do is gather all the invoices and pre-finance it and then invoice your university so that you can reimburse them.
Thank you.
Okay, I still see Helga's hand is up. Do you still have a question, or is that just from the last time?
It's from the last time, sorry.
Okay. Let me see. Okay, so there is a question here. Do we just email the updated budget or should we use the online tool? No, you email the updated budget with info@valerios in CC. Does the local per diem include accommodation costs? What we need to do if 30 euro is not enough? That's a financial question, Peter or Steven?
Yeah, so your local policy will need to be provided, and if accommodation costs is a lump sum, we need that local policy because lump sums are something we generally do not pay. So if your local policy shows, for instance, that you need 60 euros, but accommodation is included, we will not refuse it. But then we will have to have that local policy to be able to substantiate that question should questions be risen by our controllers.
Okay. Yeah, let's first do the... Okay, the next question was from Daniel Orellana. What do you consider personal belonging to the partner institution? For example, research technicians who are not staff at the university will be counted as operational costs?
Yes.
Okay. Question from Joachim Schouteten. If we have two institutions in the same country, do we also need to list both of them as partners if they both will receive budget?
Yes.
Yes.
Yes. Okay, and then a question from Daniel Guerra. What do you mean by local policy? Is that to be found in a FLIR document?
No, your local policy is or your national legislation that gives the payment of certain allowances to certain categories, or it's your university policy or your higher education policy. But it has to be a formal document.
Okay, and then I see a hand from Mikwamba Kaibu. You can talk. Ask your question, if possible. I think you are mute. So if you want to ask your question, please talk.
Push on the microphone.
Okay, then no. Okay. Oh, I see another question from Kenneth. You can talk.
Yes, good afternoon.
Oh.
Now, my question is related to the payment of either per diem or service contract. In a project, I'm not in the university, but they are the promoters in the local university and in Ghent. But I'm from another government agency, so we are collaborating, but we are not going to sign the contract in this case. It will be with the university, the local university. But staff from our institution may at some point be involved in the project as experts. So then in this case, when they are paid, can they be paid according to the local per diem policy, which is higher than the VLIR rates, or they need to sign a contract based on the rates of the institution?
Well, the one service contract is for the delivery of services. A per diem is just to cover meals and drinks. So if your services are in your country paid by a certain service contract with certain allowances, you will have to make a document for that, but based on your own legislation. Now, as soon as you start paying allowances per DMs or stuff like that, then we need to see that policy. I don't know if my answer was clear.
Yes, there is a local policy that indicates the daily allowance, subsistence allowance for the local institutions. But then this is more of lump sum, as you are calling it. So the rates include accommodation and if there is some meals and any other incidental. But now this happens to be higher than the DLIR per diem rate.
Yeah, so we need to see what that entails, because there is something in our financial framework like allowances, where we put a maximum amount per person per year that can receive a certain allowance, and that allowance is then a sort of lump sum. It is not a detailed contract. As soon as you start delivering services that are higher than that certain amount, then I think it's wise to make a service contract with the services you're going to deliver for that project, and for which you will be remunerated.
Yeah.
Okay.
From my side, it's a bit of a complex question for us, and so if you could send it by email, we can then review it internally and then get back to you.
Okay, I will do.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, then there's the next question. Anna Maria, please ask your question.
Yes, thank you. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, thank you very much. In the case of our budget, it has been observed in our personal cost that we are topping up a person who holds an administrative position at the university, at the local university. This person will be responsible for the accountability of the project. However, in our case, her salary at our university is covered by research projects. So this will add another project to her responsibility. So this can be added as a justification together maybe with a supporting document from the administrative financial director in our university.
Mm-hmm.
Is it possible to do so? No?
Yes, normally that person will receive a certain salary, and that the topping up is normally maximum 40% of that salary. So we will need as a justification the proof of the salary of that person.
Okay, thank you very much. I have another question. Sorry. We are not allowed in the scholarships Excel sheet to break the budget down or to add lines. I don't know how we can do that, or maybe we just need to enter our comments in the columns.
You're referring to local scholarships?
Yes, to the sheet in our Excel files that is scholarship costs and the PhD. In our case, they are PhD students, two PhD students.
But local.
Yes, yes,
okay.
local. Yep.
Yes, the format is more aligned with what we are paying. But normally there is also for PhDs extra costs that you can add, and then you need in the column next to it explain what those extra costs will be.
Okay.
So that they're justified. And
okay,
I think the only rule we have is that it cannot be higher than what we pay here in Belgium to scholarships.
Yes, exactly. Well, thank you very much.
Okay, then there's a question from Magali. Please ask your question, Magali.
Oh, thank you. Good morning. Sorry, I have two questions actually. The first one, we received the information I put in the chat. That, the local tuition fees should be waived because of our contracting, of course, and we're aware of that. But the point is, if there is a rule or something like I mean a manual or a written rule from which we can support this waiving. We know that this should be the situation, but the point is that auditing normally comes to the masters, and if there is no a document to support this waiving, we often have we will not receive the agreement to waive it. This is the first thing, or we can receive a letter or something. We receive the paper, but this is not official actually. That's the first question. And the second one, we have a per diem local rate of about 15 euros. We added 20 euros, but it's a fixed amount. It's not like a per expenditure. Can we keep this 20 euros as it is, as a lump sum, or being even lower than the fleet rate? Is that possible or not? That's my second
For the
question.
per diem, yes, of course. The 30 euros that we prescribe is a maximum. So if you go lower, it's better. It's also a more efficient use of the budget. So it can go to other project activities. So that's certainly a yes. For the first question, the waiving, I think it is mentioned in the financial framework, which is also an annex to the contract. The link is in the contract, so I don't know if that should not be sufficient.
Oh, sorry, my mic was off. If it is in the contract, perfect. I didn't find it in the documents, but just in the recommendations and remarks. But yeah,
maybe we
I'll
can
look
discuss
for
it
that.
also afterwards in the case of your specific project,
Perfect.
because the waiving
Yeah.
of these types of costs is a good practice, in fact, because it's a partnership project. So we
Yeah,
prefer
of
that the
course.
project means are spent to something else than something that is sort of an in-kind funding from your institution. So it's definitely there also as, let's say, linked up to the giving a supportive environment for scholarships. Now we have very clear guidelines on the on, let's say, the scholarships that come to Belgium. If it goes about scholarships in your home country, of course, we also have to look at what the local systems are. So I don't know exactly what your project context is, but there are some references in the contract, but it would be good to exchange on that probably outside this
Okay,
meeting.
perfect. Thank you very much.
Okay, the next question in the chat is, how do you disperse the funds? Is it yearly?
Yes, the funds are in the contract yearly. A certain amount will be transferred. Whether you spend more than the budget or less than the budget, it's always fixed in the contract. So we will always pay what's in the contract. And it's normally funded to the Belgian higher education institution, and that institution will transfer the money locally. And they probably have their own internal rules to see how that budget is going to be transferred.
Yes, and especially for the first year, but it's logical. It's that we only transfer the money, and we want to do it before the start of the project, but that can only be if the contract is signed, of course. The next question from Louisa: have the contracts been sent for signing already? No, not yet. We still need some information. We need to finalize the budget, and then yeah, you still need to fill in some information in the tool, which I will show you later. But we hope to send it as soon as possible. I saw another hand. Let me do that. Sheila, you can ask your question.
Good afternoon, Peter. I have one small question regarding our budget. We have specific staff researchers who would come to Belgium for a research stay. They are not PhD students nor master students. So in our budget, we used daily allowances from Belgium, but we got this comment that we should calculate that according to a PhD stay allowance. Is this how we should handle it, or we should use the daily allowances?
It depends.
So they are neither.
It depends on how you have described it. If you say we're letting PhD students come for a short term, then normally it's the PhD allowances that if it's just a short-term stay, it's just short-term allowances that will apply.
Then that, but this is my question. We wrote very well, staff researcher from Estate to Hogent, and we calculated based on daily rates. But the comments from you, we need to use the monthly allowance and divide by 31 and multiply by the days that they stay. But these are neither PhD students nor master students. That's my answer.
Somebody says
there is a problem with the sound now.
Yes. Please go on mute. Thank you.
All of you, please.
So probably it's because you used the word researcher that we thought it was a research scholarship, a PhD.
So again, here I think it's good for this specific project to have a direct exchange with the program officer that sent you the mail, because for us it's now difficult to react to a very specific case here. But it's duly something that we need to look into. Maybe it was a misunderstanding on our side. It can be something that was not clear. So that can be in your response to our budget. Try to be as clear as possible. And then the person will contact you on this matter.
Okay, then okay. I already see that Peter also answered the question, which is the periodicity of the reporting. That's every year. Okay.
Move on.
Yeah.
Richard.
Let's go further with the contracting stage. Okay, so it will be we need to collect info for the contract. That will be basic information. One of them is information about who will sign. We mostly have the Flemish institution, we have the Flemish promoter, we have the partner promoter. The one that we mostly don't have is the legal representative of the partner university. Just to be clear, this can be anybody in the university who has the legal authority to represent the university, but we see in general that it's mostly a rector or a director, something like that. But you need to check for sure that the person who signs that they can legally represent the university. And then we have two more questions about financial management. Please go on mute if you are in the
meeting.
In the meeting. We have two financial questions, which I will also show in the tool. And we do expect that the part of the tool would also be finalized by the 5th of July of course, it's not a hard deadline, but we want to make it as soon as possible so that we can send the contracts out before the beginning of the vacation period. Okay, then we have our contracting stage, which is once we have all the information, we are going to our digital platform that's called DocuSign. We've been using this now for around 2-3 years. It's really easy. We made a process in DocuSign which says that when we send out the contract, we will be the first one to sign. After, it will go to the ECOS of the Flemish institution. They will check the contract, and if that's okay, it will be sent to all the promoter and all the heads of the legal representatives of the institution. So it will always follow this process. And yeah, the first installments, I put it in here because it's really important. We only do the first transfer if the contract is fully signed. So that means if it's after the project starts, then it's, yeah, we will do it after the project. We will make the transfer after. So it's also an incentive for you to fill in the tool and finalize the budget as soon as possible. Okay, so now I will show you how the tool works, because it is important to fill it in correctly. Okay, so if I'm correct, you all have received a link in your email, which contains indeed the link to the follow-up tool. This follow-up tool has several modules. The most important one is the contract information. Here you can add all the partners that you think that needs to be on the contract. So what do? You press the plus up in the corner, and then you will get a question list. Some of these are mandatory. The financial questions are not mandatory, but I will show them later. So what is important? The partner institution of the name of the partner institution, the street and number is of course the official address, the postal code, the country, the enterprise number we also ask, and the legal representative. Please fill in all these forms and press save. And then once you're done here, you can submit, and then it will go to the ECOS, and the ECOS will validate and send it to us. Yes, these are some of the financial questions that we will be asking, but you can check them. It's not a lot, and it's not mandatory, so you can fill them in or not. The most important thing is the legal rep, the address, the name of the partner. All these things are really important for the contract. Maybe to stay with the tool for a second, are there any questions about that I can answer maybe directly? Françoise?
What do you mean exactly by enterprise number?
So we have in Belgium, we have it's called the ondernemingsnummer, which is actually the it's not really a tax number, but it's a number which every country should have. If it's not in a specific country, you can always fill in not applicable.
But it's normally it's the financial identification number of an enterprise.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, but oh, okay.
Yeah.
There's some chats, Richard, some chat messages that need responses.
Okay. From Marion. So all promoters sign next to the legal representative. Yes. So for, what we see is that every partner on the contract, they have one promoter and one legal rep. Well, one legal rep and one promoter. For University of Applied Science and Arts, will the GEO have to give her his oak instead of the equals? Yes, that will be. That is from Caroline. But yes, so the GEO has to give her oak, but we will always put the equals also in CC, but they don't have to give their oak. What about co-promoters? Does the Flemish Institution of Co-Promoters also has to sign? No, co-promoters are not on the contract, only the promoters. From Sophie. From Lilian, I thought the enterprise number would be an organization registration number. Yes, that is true. For example, in Belgium, on the namings number, the organization registration number looks a lot like the tax ID. That is why. But it's
the same. Yes.
Yeah, well, it's BE in front, but it's not for the.
Yeah.
So, indeed, if you can find organization registration number, that is okay. Are there? Well, I still see a hands up from Kenneth. You can ask your question if needed. No.
I think that's from the previous one, sorry.
Okay. Okay. I guess from Magali, also from the previous one, then probably.
Sorry. Yes, it's the previous one. I'll get down.
Okay. Let me go on with the presentation then.
There are other questions.
Where?
In the chat.
There are new ones. Okay. I cannot access the tool. Should the PI of the project give me access or Valerius? Yeah, well, please send a message to me and then we will give access to you. Shall we have a chance to review the contract before signature? Yes, you will be able to do that. We are now busy with finalizing the contracts, and we will send them out before we send out the form in DocuSign. But for your information, it's a standard template, and it's informative only. It's I just want to emphasize it's a standard template. Is it possible to change names of staff? Yes. So well, it depends on what you fill in the follow-up tool. So we will use the data from the follow-up tool for the person who signs as legal rep in the contract. If by any reason it changes or it's somebody else, we can still adjust it, but we would like to know it upfront so we can adjust the contract.
And maybe also adding there that, of course, that the information on the promoters, in normal cases, the promoters that presented the project should also be the names that we are finding back again in the tool. So there is there it's very exceptional that there could be any changes in that context. And in that case, it would be very important to let us know also in a timely way.
Yes. Caroline. So only view and not review the contract. We will send out the mail, and we will make clear what is supposed to happen for the contract, for the template. Yes, and I see that Koen already said yes, so that's correct.
In some cases, it's CEO signs.
Yeah, that can be.
Yeah, just saying. Yeah.
Okay, Philippe, you can ask your question.
Yes, thank you. We have a project in Tanzania, but it's a multi-stakeholder ship with NGO Plan International. Now I have two questions about it. The NGO is not a partner in the contract, I assume. And then the second question is, can we wire the 20,000 budget to Plan International here in Belgium at the beginning of the project and have them manage the budget in Tanzania for Plan International?
That's a financial question. If one of the Peters can respond to that.
Peter, are you going for it?
Well, I think that's not possible because the link accountancy, everything should be clear, and that you can only wire money to partners that have signed the contract and that will spend it accordingly. Because once you sign the contract, you also have obligations. If you wire money to NGOs or partners that didn't have any legal bound with the project, it's simply not possible.
Yeah, how do I need to pay them for the services of Plan International, the NGO locally?
You will have to have a certain understanding between your project and that NGO. So you have to make a certain official contract between the two of you, and then with clear guidelines what they can spend. And you will need to have all the justifications in your possessions before you can wire money to them.
Yeah, but I just learned I cannot wire money to them because they're not a partner in the contract.
No. It's only you cannot just wire them a grant, but you can, as Peter said, you can make up a service contract and say, NGO Plan will do X, Y, and Z, and will be remunerated for it.
And they invoice you, and then with the justifications in annex, and then you can wire money.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Thank you.
Okay, then we have Françoise.
No, I was just because I will be following up Tanzania that indeed we can reimburse them and make up a subcontract, Philippe. That should not be such a big problem.
Yeah, and I think in most cases it will probably go via the local accounting, because it will probably be linked to the local activities of Plan there. So those are things that you need to check. All of that, it's very important to check that in this stage of preparation of your project. But indeed, they're not on the contract, so there cannot be a lump sum based, or can only be activity based reimbursement. And also to make clear that we can only finance, and that was also clarified in our budget reviews, operational costs and scholarship related costs related to indirect actors. So no personnel costs that are structural personnel costs of the organization either.
Structural personnel costs not, but service contracts, yes.
Yeah, but that's what I mean. But no personnel costs. So if somebody put in his budget personal costs for NGO, that is not possible.
Yeah, okay.
Thank you.
Okay, there are no more questions. Let me check for that. No. Okay, let me go on with the slide then. So I do hope that the tool is clear for you. And if it's something not clear, please contact us via the program manager if needed. And then we will come to monitoring and reporting. And I will give the word to
Peter.
I think Peter. Yeah.
It's me. Yeah, just a few words because, of course, you have not even been started, so it's a bit early to talk about the reporting, but there was already a question. Indeed, the reporting is on an annual basis, so these years that start in September and then in August per activity year, you will need to submit a financial and a progress report. It's still early, but it can be interesting to already have a look at those formats, of course, in terms of the support for that. The ICOS and the GEO of the Flemish institutions will also provide further explanations on this whole reporting matter. But you can already have a look at those formats, in particular also the progress reporting. And I would like to highlight there, and you can go to the next slide, is that in your proposal, we only asked for a basic monitoring approach whereby you could have some reflections in your proposal on which type of indicators that you're going to use. But for VLER-ES, there are a number of standard indicators that you will be asked to report on this yearly basis. And these are linked to the standard domains that we work with. You've seen that in the proposal, domains, the research program and methods. And there it's good to know that one of the indicators you will need to report on is, for instance, the number of co-authored, joint peer-reviewed scientific publications that were published with the support of the projects. That information, it really has to be linked to the project and not write down there all the possible articles of your research department in your institution, but linked to the project. That's something that you will follow up on this yearly basis. It's perfectly normal that in the beginning it can be zero. So you are not obliged to put values for each indicator, only if you effectively have results that link up with that. The second one is dealing with, if your project deals with educational programs and methods, it could perfectly be that after a year or 2 years, there is somewhere an updated or revised master program. Well, that is also one of these standard indicators. And this way it goes for every domain. You can go to the next slide. For the domain of people, for instance, that deals with the students supported by your project. So it's important to know that there you will be able to put info on the persons, the master students, PhD students, or in some cases even bachelors, if bachelors are directly supported by a project, but it's rather rare, that you can give the numbers there. When did they start in their trajectory? Where are they? And then when did they achieve their diploma, if they get it within the term of the project, of course. So important to keep track on that and already have a look at it, because that will make your reporting easier at the end of the year. Very important, the indicators on outreach and policy support, of course, which are very strongly linked to the uptake domain that we talked about in the beginning. So keep track on all the events that you do with non-academic actors. Numbers of persons that participate, the reach of that activity, so the numbers of activities and the number of persons that participated. And also you will be asked to auto-evaluate by a drop-down menu. How do you consider by the status of your project after year 1, year 2, the level of uptake and influence of your, for instance, your research in terms of policy and practice? It can be 0 in beginning, but we guess that by the end of the project, this will be a scale that will be moving up. And then on the next sheet, if there are indicators, I think it's the previous one still. Yeah, indicators that we're going back and forth. So let's stay at this one. For networks and partnerships, if your project brings about any strategic partnership between organizations or with a ministry or with whatever, that can be directly linked to the project, dealing with improved education, dealing with research, dealing with uptake. That is also something that you report on in this indicator. And finally, if the project leads, for instance, to a new or an updated gender policy in your institution, that would be something that you could report on under the indicator systems, policies, and infrastructure. So even if you did not point it out in your proposal, you will be asked to provide a follow-up on these indicators during the reporting. You will also, of course, it will be possible in the narrative part of the report to add on other indicators or your approaches. But this is, let's say, something standard that will be foreseen. That I already wanted to say now. Of course, all of this is very early in the process still. Thank you. I think, yeah, what's next, of course, we will try to also keep up in contacting with you and organizing more sessions that can be informative to learn about VLIR-ES. We will also be interested to know about your progress. We will hopefully be able to connect you with each other, not only within this team project generation, but with other projects, and take part in our community talks that are organized on a regular basis. Maybe after a year or so, if you already nice results, you can also present yourself to organize such a talk, or in other events. It's always interesting, and we're looking forward to get inspired by your projects, and I hope you will get inspired by by each other as well. And I think that is nearly the last slide. Yes, but if there are any remaining questions, we can still have a few questions before we finalize, and that can be related to the different sections we had during this session. So if there's still an urgent question, I see that Dr. Christine Jung-Hung has a question.
Just a minor one. I mentioned in chat as well, because we get a lot of remarks related to that they cannot be lump sum in invoicing. We understand it for the invoicing later, but do we have to clarify all of them now by Friday?
I can leave my colleague Peter give feedback. I think the recommendations that we gave were that you are aware of the fact that it should not be lump sums in the reporting. In some particular cases, we asked clearly further information. So I'm not sure what was the recommendation in your case, but it depends a little bit.
If they all right, please make sure that this is not so it means we don't have to do anything, right?
Yes, then it's a recommendation.
Okay,
exactly.
A coaching.
Okay, then there's Daniel Guerra.
Yes, please, Daniel.
Yes, thank you. I'm afraid these are complex questions and I'm not fully certain on how to formulate them. First one is about a postdoc. We are going to hire a postdoc, but the project will allow us to pay her half of the time, like part-time postdoc, and the other part-time she will be a lecturer, but the contract from the university for these lectures are not going to be steady, stable every semester. Some semesters will be higher, some semesters will be lower. And so if this contract is topping up, it might be that the same amount given by the project will not be in that 40% limit, but will exceed if some semester she happens to have a low contract as a lecturer. So it would be better to have another kind of contract for the project that would not depend on this figure of topping up. I don't know what figure can that be. And my other question is even more complicated. I have two partner institutions. So we are three partner institutions in Peru. My university, Cayetano Heredia, has plenty of experience with international grants. And the other two universities in different sides of the country, public universities, and experience with international grants is not so advanced. But the PhD students will be on those universities. And I understand from what I heard today is most convenient is that those two universities should sign the contract because the scholarships will be there. Now, we still are not certain we want those two PhD students to be in the university in Iquitos and in Cajamarca, in those two locations, but maybe the two scholarships will be on the program of only one of those. The student might be all the time in the laboratory of Cajamarca, but they don't have a program in biological science that is fit for the project. So probably both will be in the scholarship on the Iquitos University, although one of those will be working in the laboratory in Cajamarca. So still, I should have them both signing the contract and still have to figure out immediately if the scholarships are going to be in each one of them or in only one. That changes the amount of money that will be transferred to them. So it's very difficult to figure that off right.
Okay, maybe I can start and my colleague Peter can add on the more financial side. I think you presented your project as a multi-institutional project in Peru with indeed those partners, Cajamarca and Iquitos. So it seems very logical that you both include them in the contract. And in particular, if there are scholarships and personnel linked to that, that seems fitting. It doesn't seem correct not to include them. That is from what I understand now. Huh? And then you don't have to be fully clear yet on all the details. I mean, the budget that is made up now doesn't have a distinction at the level of how much budgets goes to the different institution. But Peter can correct me or add. But normally you will need to clarify afterwards for the E2 coordination costs, which part will be managed by which partners. I guess that most will be managed by Caetano Heredia, which is the leading partner. So those are elements that you will need to discuss also with your Flemish institution, your Flemish counterpart, when you prepare it. But we don't need all that info now. We need to provide feedback on the budget comments. So that's one thing. You need to fill in the contractual info, and I would include indeed those two institutions. And then on the technical side, also for the first question, yeah, it's difficult to answer right now, but you have a postdoc status. If the person would be under a type of a scholarship situation locally, then it would be a local research scholarship. If it's a personnel contract, yeah, normally then you're abide to follow these topping up maximum of 40%. Of course, I think this is looked at on a yearly basis. So I guess that probably then there will not be a problem, but I can let my colleague add to it because I'm not an expert on this matter either. So Peter, I don't know when you want to add something.
No, the topping up is on a yearly basis, so that should cover it. And then for the opening, for the co-signing, it depends who is going to pay those scholarships. If the scholarships are to be paid by the other institutions and they cannot pre-finance it, then they will have to sign the contract if you're going to wire money so that they can pay their scholarships. If they can pre-finance it and send you an invoice based on a document that you will establish between those institutions, then they don't need to co-sign it. But I think since students are enrolled at those universities, that there is a proper link with those students and those institutions, and that they will pay their scholarship, that it's more logical that they should co-sign.
Yeah, it was also following the proposal, I guess. So there's always that logic. We're not, we're basing ourselves on the approved proposal.
Exactly.
Is that if there are any further details, we can still interact outside the meeting, because otherwise it might also get very specific and technical for the other participants. Maybe.
Thank you.
Any other questions, Richard, or are we about to finalize? We're reaching the end time of our meeting as well.
Yes, I don't see any other questions. So yes, then I would like to thank you to listen to us, and congratulations again. And then we will hear of each other in the short future.
Okay, also on my side, thank you very much for participating. Congratulations again, and hoping to exchange with you in the future. Bye-bye.
Thank
Bye.
you.
Bye.
Bye. Thank you.
Thank you. Bye bye.
Bye bye.
Bye. Thank you.
Bye.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
اه